So Rand Paul says, we got questions about this. The Secret Service had the intel, all right? They had the time, and they still failed. Or did they? The shooter failed from their perspective, some of them. My final report from Rand exposes the bureaucratic incompetence that nearly cost President Trump his life. Now it's time to hold those accountable to ensure something like this never happens again. The entire report is now out from Rand, and he was also talking about this today. And here is what has come out. Rand Paul sits on the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, and he releases the final report 1 year later about the failures of the Secret Service to protect the president on the Butler assassination attempt day, July 13, 2024. Final report. They give us an executive summary from Rand Paul. He says, you know what? I'm Rand, and I'm the chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. And we're releasing our final report as can what only be described as stunning failures by the Secret Service that allowed Trump to be shot on July 13th in an attempted assassination. Now, 1 year later, Rand says, the facts remain as chilling as ever. A former president of the United States and major party candidate was shot in the head at a public rally by an individual who was reported as suspicious, carrying a rangefinder at least 25 minutes before all this went down. And we said shot in the head many times here. And people said, it wasn't his head, it was his ear, Rob. Which is attached to the head. It's a part of the head. And even Rand Paul agrees he was shot in the head. Total and complete vindication. Thank you, Rand. It is a miracle that President Trump survived. Yeah. This attempt on the life of President Trump cost one innocent life and could have resulted in far more bloodshed. The truth is, Trump and the nation was fortunate. Could you imagine? We could be in a whole different timeline. Oh my gosh. Then the once again president survived despite being shot in the head. Since that day, there's been another attempt on his life and future threats to do the same, including from Iran. This report reveals a disturbing pattern of communication failures and negligence that culminated in a preventable tragedy. What happened was inexcusable, and the consequences imposed for the failures do not reflect the severity of the situation. And the people who were there have all just been suspended. As far as we know, nobody's been fired, not one person. On July 13th, 2024, at 6:11 p.m., Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20-year-old gunman with no social media history, no one's ever heard from this dude, managed to climb on the roof of American Glass Research, the AGR building, unimpeded during a campaign rally with a direct line of sight from the rooftop to the president's head. From the rooftop, he fired 8 shots from a rifle at Trump. Crooks struck 4 individuals, killing Corey and injuring 3 others, including Trump. Now, following the attack, our Senate committee and another committee, the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, launched a joint bipartisan investigation. And over the year, the committee has conducted 17 transcribed interviews with Secret Service personnel and over 75,000 pages of documents produced from a bunch of entities. A preliminary report was issued in 2024. This is the final report that builds upon that. Now, here are the failures. There were multiple unacceptable failures in the planning and the execution of July 13th Butler rally. A 20-year-old gunman was able to evade detection by the country's top protective agency for 45 minutes. Agents and officers chose not to retrieve radios from local and state law enforcement, limiting coordination at a critical time, and none of the recordings were recorded. None of the transmissions made its way into a hard copy that you could listen to again. Known line of sight vulnerabilities were identified in advance but not addressed. Like, oh, perfect. Yeah, no, that's right to the head right there. Got it. An inexperienced operator was tasked with managing counter unmanned aerial systems that didn't work. Personnel who were vital to the mission success were not even requested. In addition to the consequential failures on the ground in Butler, there were also numerous failures in D.C. at headquarters, where executives told the committee that there was no formal process to deny or request assets. In fact, advance agents told the committee that when their requests went unanswered, they had no way of knowing whether they would receive the support they needed at all. Like, we make the request if they show up, if not, we'll make do. Some did not even bother submitting the request at all, just saying they would be denied by headquarters, because the headquarters wanted Trump to get shot in the head. Now, not a single person has been fired. That's what we thought. Secret Service has conducted internal reviews, but only 6 individuals have faced disciplinary action. And we read the article on that. before. So that article must have been sourced from maybe this. 2 of those individuals received lighter punishments than even initially recommended. The committee believes more than 6 individuals should have received disciplinary action as a result of their action, or there it is, inaction, or you could call it intentional inaction. Kind of let it happen on purpose. I didn't shoot Trump in the head, but I let somebody else shoot Trump in the head on purpose. And I was in a position where I can make that happen. Those who were disciplined received penalties far too weak to match the severity of the failures, which was a bullet to the head. Details on these disciplinary actions were withheld from the committee until Chairman Rand Paul issued a subpoena for them. The American people deserve better. So the Secret Service is covering up for the Secret Service. Great. So based on the evidence gathered, here's what the committee found. 1, Secret Service denied multiple requests for additional staff, assets, and resources to protect Trump because they wanted him to get shot. The Secret Service did not fire a single person involved in planning or the execution of this because they did everything by the book, which would have resulted in Trump getting shot in the head. U.S. Secret Service disciplined only 6 people, some of whom received their disciplinary decision as recently as July 2025. In 2 instances, the final decision was a reduced punishment from what was originally recommended. Now, former director Kimberly Cheadle, who left the Secret Service, falsely testified to Congress when she was called in that no U.S. Secret Service asset requests were denied. Liar! That's a crime. You can't lie to Congress under oath. Did she swear under oath? I think she did. Didn't we read that? Despite U.S. Secret Service leadership, I think we listened to that one. I don't remember her. And we go, despite U.S. Secret Service leadership receiving, but I could be wrong. I could be wishful thinking. An intelligence briefing regarding the protectee and counter snipers, they got briefed on it. Counter snipers were not present at the July 9th Doral campaign rally. There were ill-defined responsibilities for the Secret Service agents. Secret Service agents failed to communicate crucial information regarding the suspicious individual to Trump's detail, which could have stopped Trump from taking the stage, right? They could have said, we do have something to do with a rangefinder here. You have a rangefinder to see how measure distances, to see how you can better take your shot. Pertinent threat intelligence related to the protectee was not shared with Secret Service agents. There was a severe lack of coordination between state and Secret Service officials, and this was not a single error, says Rand. It was a cascade of preventable failures that nearly cost Trump his life. And in the interest of transparency, the committee is releasing a number of subpoenaed records and additional transcripts in the addendum. The addendum also includes a summary of changes that the Secret Service made to its policies and more, and the report goes on for 30 pages in total. And they give us a breakdown here, you can see, of all the various assets of the denials, things that were denied, right? Similar incident on January, DDT was denied assets for various roles 6 times. How come they kept denying assets for President Trump? The most significant candidate in American political modern history. They're like, no, it's good because Dr. Jill's going to go give a speech to some kid somewhere. A police meeting and planning, all of it happened. A similar incident happened in Las Vegas. Internal communications were showing there were denials that were happening. Same here. A lot of these requests unfulfilled due to a lack of manpower. When Trump visited in Las Vegas, no reason for the denials. Now, in the 17 transcribed interviews the committee conducted, the Secret Service personnel interviewed have continued to shift blame and point fingers. I didn't do it. Sounds like a bunch of government bureaucrats. Not only within the agency, but also to the state law enforcement. Remember, they blamed them. The federal Secret Service is like the local cops screwed this up. It's like, it's your whole reason for existence is to protect the president. You're blaming local cops whose job is to protect local affairs. Following months of requests for records relating to this, they finally gave us some. The chairman, after Rand Paul issued a subpoena, had to go take it out of their booties. Now, on July 3rd, the Secret Service produced to the committee a table of administrative and disciplinary actions, 6 people. And so that's where that story came from. Rand said 6 people. He leaked that to somebody. While these 6 individuals played a role in the failures, we'd like to note the lack of disciplinary action for other people involved. Most notably, the Secret Service security room agent who, according to testimony, failed to relay critical information he got from one officer about the suspicious individual to someone else who could have taken the stage. And remember, they're so incompetent that they don't even share radios. So they have like one dude who has 2 radios and he's like listening. Secret Service says, okay, we got this dude coming in or local cops say we got this dude coming in with a rangefinder. He just sits on his butt he doesn't pick up the other radio and transmit it to Trump and say, hey, President Trump's Secret Service detail, local cops have something to do with a rangefinder. Just delay 10 minutes while we go scope that dude out. Make sure we got eyes on him. That didn't happen. He just sat there, probably playing tiddlywinks in there. In a document provided to the committee detailing administrative actions taken against agents, they said, after our review is completed, we've decided who's going to face detail and discipline, and he's not going to be this guy. It's also concerning to the committee that nearly 1 year has passed since this assassination, and the Secret Service has only days ago finally issued disciplinary actions. Everybody was around for the full year. They're like, they show up to their office meetings as that dude who got Trump shot in the head. They're like, hey, what's going on, everybody? Weren't you that agent? What are you doing here? You're a total failure. Nuh-uh, not according to the Secret Service policy. I'm doing a great job. Cheers. Now, on November 26th, the Pittsburgh police office was informed that somebody else would be permanently reassigned, and this other person got notice of suspension, Pittsburgh field office person, and more. 10 days without pay. Oh no! The Pittsburgh said he was issued 10 days. As part of the process, agents are afforded an opportunity. That's so great. And try to talk to their unions and get senators to go fight for them and more. Anyone else, does anything bad, you're like fired immediately. You talk to HR or whatever. But if you're a government worker, man, like multiple people to appeal in your unions and all these different things. The U.S. Secret Service advance agent on August 14th, the lead advance agent was placed on telework status by Director Rowe. Remember him? In January, the lead advance agent returned from the situational telework, but was restricted from performing her standard duties until April 8th. I was going to say, okay, why telework? It's 2024. Is she pregnant or something? The USS lead advance agent received notice, so then she comes back in, restricted, maybe off maternity leave, and then comes back in. Then received notice of integrity proposing a 21... Whoa! Wild. Actually, no, she was not pregnant. So on April 4th, the Secret Service lead advance agent, the same woman, received a notice from the Secret Service Office of Integrity proposing a 21-day suspension without pay. That's in January 2025. Okay, this is after the shooting happened. So this is the disciplinary decision. Now, we got a bunch of timeline happening here, and we've covered a lot of this, but let's go through just a little bit of it. Here's some more background on this. We've got a bunch of threats outside of just this Butler incident. On January 14th, a video was posted by Grand Ayatollah Khamenei, 2022, saying we're going to take out Trump after Trump took out Soleimani. On July 12, 2024, 1 day before Butler, the Federal Bureau of Investigation said there's a Pakistani national called Asif Merchant, we talked about that case, who's got ties to Iran. According to the DOJ, there was a criminal complaint saying he was going to be hired to kill Trump and more. On November 8th, the DOJ released a criminal complaint saying other nationals were coming in from the IRGC. Before July 13th, a bunch of people met to discuss this intelligence. And despite Butler being the first time Trump got counter-sniper assets, it was not the first time those assets had been requested. But there were conclusive failures. The security room agent who's supposed to relay the conversations did a bad job. The role of that command post is to ingest information from different sources and then send it back out to the other people. Get it in and get it back out to commingle the streams. The security room Secret Service agent first learned of the suspicious individual, later identified as Crooks, 25 minutes before the shooting. And when his counterpart in the security room got a call from the Butler command post saying, we're looking for a suspicious individual. During the conversation between the Secret Service and the security room agent and others, they relayed, this dude is outside the perimeter and he has a rangefinder. In a joint interview between this person and everybody, here's what it sounded like. Question to this person. When you relayed that information to him, was this in person? Yes. Yes. Did you see if he communicated that over his radio? I don't know, but I know he appeared to, there was like, after I said outside the perimeter, I got a distinct impression that there's like a lack of urgency. He's, oh, okay, yeah, rangefinder outside the perimeter? Yeah, I'll tell Trump's team. He's like, you mean like right now? Yeah, no, I'll tell him as soon as you leave. But he's outside the perimeter with a rangefinder, and use a rangefinder to measure distances so you can shoot somebody in the head and he's the president. I understand. I will communicate it. Thank you for the message. Says, could you explain more? This dude sounds like nervous as hell. So he's saying, and then this guy comes back and mirrors the likes. He's like, could you explain more? It was like, oh, okay. Like, it wasn't like he rushed around or did anything. I just told him about this and everything. So my version of the recreation of this scene was probably pretty accurate. Thank you for the message. What, does he have a rifle too? Is it pointed at Trump's head? Okay, I'll respond. I'll tell everybody about it. Leave me alone, weirdo. The U.S. Security Room agent told the committee that after he learned about it, he did relay the information to someone else. In the conversation, the room agent told another advance agent to pass information along to the counter surveillance team. And when asked about whether that information was passed to Trump's protective detail, he stated, yeah, I believe that they were notified at the same time as the response for the counter surveillance team, but through another advance agent. So did you tell Trump's personal detail about that? According to the personal response agent from Trump, she heard the information from her PSP counterpart, not the Secret Service advance agent, and stated no one had dispatched her, period. So local cops actually were telling her, not the Secret Service. The UAS advanced Secret Service agents corroborates what the other agent told the committee, saying, PI also went out to try to locate the individual. I did not speak to her, but it possibly could have been the Secret Service room agent that did. Now, if you get a suspicious individual on the perimeter, the individual told the committee, for someone on the outer perimeter, there's really only two assets available from the Secret Service perspective to dispatch. We've got the protective intelligence response for Trump and the counter sniper response, because they're the only people who are capable of leaving the interior secure perimeter to go look for somebody. And furthermore, because the information regarding a suspicious individual with a rangefinder was passed verbally from the security room officer to the agent, the security room agent made the decision for the Secret Service agents to relay that information to the phone to the counter sniper team rather than radio it back over to the other details. Lots of acronyms here. Now, they also stated in the transcribed interview the information should have been elevated to someone at his level. So a bunch of security, game of telephone failures. The security room agent's joint interview, he stated the following question. Okay, were you ever made aware of Mr. Crooks being on the roof prior to the shooting? No. Okay, so if the security room officer were to say that he did inform you guys that he was on the roof, that wouldn't be an accurate statement, right? If he said he told you he's on the roof, that's wrong. Okay, he misremembered that. Is that right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I don't recall being told that he was on the roof until we heard the radio traffic come across that the local police were working on the problem at 3 o'clock. So there are conflicting accounts between the security room officer and the Secret Service security room agent. Okay, so like local cops are in the room, Secret Service agent are in the room. They're saying, I told him something, and he's saying he didn't tell me that. The security room officer testifies, the local cops, that he was there, and he says, and then prior to calling your corporal, you gave that information to the Secret Service about him being on the rooftop, right? Yes, I did. And who was that communicated to? He says it would be the security room agent, that guy. It was like, we're in the room and I'm like moving fast. I'm like, yeah, dude, the guy's on the roof. He could hear all your communications. Yes, cause I'm like trying to get, hey, like basically almost, hey, he's on the roof. And then I need to get our people there because obviously they're the ones that can get there the fastest. So this guy's talking almost like he's like panicked, saying like a lot. Now, the Protective Intelligence Office agent was a special agent out of Phoenix, Arizona. Shout out. In a transcribed interview, he said, I'm from Phoenix, probably Katie Hobbs' best friend. Yeah, we're going to send Katie Hobbs' best friend, FBI agent, to go over there. So he gets a conversation. Secret Service, Hercules, sniper. We got some footage here. Here is the view of the roof looking towards the position of Hercules 1 and Hercules 2, two of the agent teams. Counter sniper agents was sent to search for this suspicious person, not by the counter sniper team, but rather by another Secret Service agent embedded in the command post. Prior to when the shots were fired, the Hercules 1 counter sniper testified that he had heard that someone was on the roof of the AGR building. He was unaware if that came over his radio or from the crowd, right? Crowd was ahead of the snipers. Furthermore, he was unsure if he co-located his partner. The Secret Service counter sniper team had heard the same. He also said it was decided not to radio that information to the security room. Instead, they were trying to do our job and just observe the rooftops. While observing the vicinity of the building, he noticed local police running around the building with their weapons drawn. While he stated that he raised his suspicion, he was focused on the building and made the decision not to use his radio to notify anybody or the Secret Service countersnipers. Crazy. Director Rowe, former acting, stated in his testimony to a joint committee that the reason why Trump was not removed is we did not have any other information aside from the local cops. When asked by the committee, why did you not relay that information? The counter sniper said, I'm not the only one that's observing that area. Someone else could have also put out the radio call. I'm just not going to go ahead and just put it on just myself. There were other individuals. Yeah, so you call this oftentimes the bystander effect, right? You see this in psychological studies. It's like, why, when something goes wrong, does nobody call the cops? Because everybody thinks someone else will do it. It's like everybody can walk by somebody like dying on the streets and nobody cares because everybody thinks somebody else will handle it. So contradictory and false and misleading statements also came out from Kimberly Cheadle, aka Alot. On July 22nd, 9 days after the attempted assassination of Trump, Kimberly Cheadle came and testified. And the committee is aware by the Secret Service's own admission that she's a liar, that her claim is false. She testified in response to questions from multiple members. She said repeatedly, for the event in Butler, there were no requests that were denied. False. In fact, the Secret Service has provided the committee with a list of all the assets requested and denied, a full list. The committee is aware of at least 2 other instances of assets being denied by Kim Cheater on Butler, Pennsylvania campaign rally day. First example were other assets for CUAS agents. While it's true that they did not have these agents in place, they requested more. They said, sorry, manpower reasons. Acting Director Ronald Rowe also was misleading and contradicted by other Secret Service officials. Wild. And they'll just go write books about this and show up on the news stations with Peter Strzok. When asked if the Secret Service counter sniper advance team gave explicit instructions to local counter snipers to cover the roof, the former acting director responded that it was understanding that locals, quote, had a plan because they'd been there before. Remember, Rowe came out and blamed the local cops, which was very offensive because it's their job. They're so pathetic. Counter sniper team lead says, question to him. Okay, counter sniper, Secret Service. You mentioned that the line of sight concern was mitigated with the AGR because there was always Secret Service counter sniper eyes on the rooftop. Is that what you said? Well, it was mitigated as in between Secret Service was looking at them, but as well as other local CS counter snipers had eyes on them from the Horse Stadium as well. And so they were just looking at the AGR roof? No. Basically, the Hercules counter sniper team with the Secret Service, we were looking at everything, 180s from the stage, 180 degrees. I assume the local counterparts as well, as long as it's in their line of sight, it's not being obstructed and there's no reason you can't see it between the Horse Stadium teams and the AGR building itself. If you can see it, you can act on the threats. But obviously, they didn't. So there's a bunch of outstanding requests and a bunch of footnotes here, all cited from Rand Paul in that major memo. And of course, any accountability from the Secret Service? No. They investigated themselves and they found they did nothing wrong.